Good morning, everyone. Mike Hildreth, Nebraska Attorney General. Before we start the press conference, just a couple housekeeping items as per usual. This is being live streamed by on YouTube, by our office on YouTube, and also afterwards we'll take questions. Obviously, people in the room take whatever questions you might have. If you are online or watching at home or listening in, please text the number from the media advisory, and we can get your questions in at the end. So this morning we are announcing what I think is a national leading, really important lawsuit that we have filed in Madison County, Nebraska against a number of out-of-state entities seeking to stop the flow of foreign money, dark money, into the state of Nebraska to influence ballot initiatives. So that's what we've done. Let me give you a little bit of the background, what we found, and a little bit more detail in the lawsuit. So legally, just so you know, since the country's founding, the funding of elections by foreign nationals has been something that the country has been concerned about all the way back to George Washington. And in fact, in federal law, there was a prohibition on funding, or people believe that there was a prohibition on funding of state elections by foreign nationals. In 2021, the FEC issued a ruling, mildly controversial, but nevertheless, they issued a ruling that said that the prohibition in federal law does not apply to state elections. The Nebraska legislature in 2021, when I was the speaker, in an amendment brought by Senator John Kavanaugh, this is a very bipartisan issue, by the way, joined a number of other states, by our count roughly 12, in passing a specific state statute that prohibits the direct or indirect funding by foreign nationals of state ballot initiatives. So that's what the law is that was passed in 2021, along with a number of other states. So what did we find? Well, what we have found is really a scandal hiding in plain sight. We have a billionaire from Switzerland by the name of Hans-Georg Wyss, who has spent $500 million in the United States that have flowed into elections around the country. And a massive amount, relatively speaking, a massive amount of those dollars have flowed into Nebraska. You can see on the flow chart to my left how the money has flowed. He is at the top. He's one of our defendants. It has gone through these entities. And ultimately, what we have found is these are the ballot petitions from 2024, the ballot petition committees that we have found received money flowing ultimately from Mr. Wyss. The numbers are eye-popping. So they started in 2018, and they were over seven figures. I think about $1.5 million, $1.8 million. It's in the complaint. They increased into 2022. And then in 2024, when these petitions came, there was $9.5 million were spent on Nebraska state ballot initiatives. $9.5 million flowing from a foreign national, contrary to Nebraska state law. Now, as you can see from the flow chart, they have done their very best to obfuscate the source of funds. The money generally comes from things that sound, maybe entities you recognize, Civic Nebraska, Nebraska Appleseed, some others that are local. By the way, this Second House Collaborative is a Nebraska entity. That should be in red. It's fixed in the media packet. None of them say that it's from Hans-Georg Wyss. Now, what we know is from his statements that he's made publicly is, one, he's a far-left radical, but he has bragged about the fact that he can influence elections in the United States, and his name doesn't show up anywhere. This is a circumstance that Nebraska anticipated when we passed LB 843 in 2021. They're explicitly and frankly brazenly violating the law, and so we have filed a lawsuit to stop them going forward. Our lawsuit was filed in Madison County. What we're seeking is a declaratory judgment and an injunction, declaratory judgment declaring that this is unlawful, which we believe it clearly is under Nebraska state statute, and an injunction going forward. It's clear that these groups don't have an intent to stop in Nebraska based on their prior history unless they are forced to stop by a Nebraska court. The last thing I'll say is there's no other lawsuit that we have identified in the country that has been filed on this issue. However, two other states among the 12 or so that I identified have passed similar statutes, Kansas and Ohio. Those two states, the reason I reference them is that in both states, those statutes have been challenged on First Amendment grounds. The statutes have been upheld under the Constitution. And in those states, as we understand it, what we've seen so far is actually the dark money from foreign sources has actually stopped. So all we are seeking from our lawsuit today is to have the same result in Nebraska, which is we do not want foreign funding of state ballot initiatives in the state of Nebraska.